Hello to you watching. So we're back for another episode of The Walking Dead while I do my makeup. So this week on The Walking Dead, if you recall, last week we ended with some pretty gruesome zombies attacks at the camp. Oops, hold on one sec. At the refugee camp that Rick's wife and child, whose name is Lori, now that I know that, wife and child are at, and Rick had of course gone into Atlanta with T-Dog, Glenn, and Daryl to try to find Meryl, and Meryl had stole their truck, or at least they think it's Meryl that stole their truck. We actually don't know it's Meryl that stole the truck. Anyway, so they get back and say, but like, this is the morning after. And you find out a lot of people died. Only 2 of the characters we had met, though. The other people who ended up dead were unnamed, unfaceless characters. So we don't know those people. Anyway, and poor Andrea is distraught, and she is inconsolable, and so she's been with her sister's body all night because of course it's her sister and she feels terrible about it. And everyone tries reasoning with her and it's not working. But you see that, wait, where's the end of the cold open? Let me see. I don't know what else. Okay, so you see Daryl and some of the other people in the camp are working to destroy the brains of the people that were bitten and killed by the zombies, because they've been bitten. That means if they don't destroy the brains, they will come back as walkers. And you don't want the situation like Martin had in the first episode where he had to shoot his wife. Oh, that reminds me. Rick, you see Rick at daybreak look like he's praying, but he's actually using the walkie-talkie to try to get a hold of Martin, the man that saved him back at his neighbor's house. And he's like, don't go to Atlanta. We were wrong about Atlanta. It's not safe. And we're at a camp west of Atlanta. I think it's west, yeah. It better be west because that's the direction of the sunrise. Or the sunrise was to the east and Atlanta was to the east. So the camp is at an old rock quarry to the west. And so he's trying to reach Martin and he doesn't get any response. But you just hear him talking about how they got attacked and they lost people. And that's what the cold open was. Anyway, so Andrea's having a really hard time, which makes sense. I mean, she just lost a sister in her arms. And if you remember, the woman whose husband was abusive, he was attacked too. And he was like decimated. He was eating lots. And so while Daryl is going through destroying the brains of all the humans that were killed in the attack, he gets to her husband and she's like, no, let me do it. He was my husband after all. And she takes out some serious aggression that she needed to let out and destroys his brain. He ain't coming back as a walker. No way, no how. So they take care of all them. And while moving bodies, you realize that the tall guy who was working with the older guy on the cars and trucks is bitten. And he's like, it's not that bad. And he tried to keep it hidden from people, but the one lady, she outed him and she's like, he's been bitten. How bad is it? Everyone like turns on him and we're like, they all know what that means. That he's going to become a walker. It's only a matter of time. He's going to die and he's going to become a walker. So the moral dilemma of, does he need to die now Like, do we kill him now before he becomes a walker and destroys us all, or what? And of course, Rick, being our moral compass in the show, is like, we don't kill the living. And he puts him somewhere safe. He's like, we gotta get you out of here. We gotta get you away from these people right now. And so that happens. And well, now that there is a human that's infected that they care about, obviously, the goal is to figure out, can we cure him? And Rick's like, what about the CDC? We can go to the CDC. The CDC's outside of Atlanta. We can go there, and they've got to have better resources than what we have here. And so that's Rick's thought. But obviously he just promised, well, he's going to promise Carl that he's not leaving again. So how does he get to the CDC without breaking his promise to Carl? Anyway, him and Shane, Rick and Shane, go into the woods to do like a perimeter check. And while they're out there, they get into a fight. And Shane was like, I watched after your family like they were my family. Or Rick says something like, you don't have your own family, you don't understand. And Shane's like, what are you talking about? While you were presumed dead, I took care of your family like they were my family. So I don't understand what you're saying. Like, you're being really unfair right now. And he's like, you're misunderstanding me. Rick said exactly what he meant, and he meant what he said. Anyway, so Shane and Rick are doing a perimeter check, and Rick gets ahead of him, and Shane gets this moment of like, I've got him in my eye. I could just get rid of him, and then I could have the life I want with Lori and Carl. And the old man sees Shane do this and is like, what are you doing? Anyway, so Shane plays it off as like, we gotta start wearing hunting vests. I almost killed Rick. And so the old man knows something's up with Shane and Rick. Like, there's obvious beef there. Anyway, they then go back to camp, and they like, Andrea, you need to let her go. And the old man goes up to Andrea and is like comforting her. And he's like, have I ever told you about my wife and how she died? And she's like, cancer, right? And it's like the first words Andrea has spoke, not in anger, all episode. And so she's feeling very seen in that moment. And the old man's like, since my wife died, I haven't cared for anyone until you two girls came into my life. And so it was a very touching moment, and he knew what she was feeling, and she felt more comforted in that moment, which was good. She needed to be comforted. Anyway, what else happened? So they talk more about the CDC and how if they're going to go, they're all going to go. It's like no one's going to stay back at the camp. And we're leaving the next morning. And so that was decided. And now they're packing up and getting ready to go to the CDC, which is, I think, like 100 miles away. That's what Glenn said. Oh, I put way too much blush on. Hold on. Let's see if we can fix this. Anyway, so they plan to make that move. Anyway, Andrea is still grieving. And then you notice her sister has started breathing. Raspy breathing. Walker breathing. And she starts moving. And her eyes open up. And she's full on zombie. And you think for a moment, I'm like, is the sister going to be able to do this? Is this going to be okay? Is Andrea going to be able to do what she needs to do? Well, Andrea shoots her sister right in the head. And that's the end of her sister. And she did what she needed to do. And yeah, it must have been difficult. Okay, so they're making the decision to go to the CDC. And they all roll out in a big caravan. But the one family where the guy you met in Atlanta in that second episode has decided him and his family are going to go a different direction. So they're not going to continue. And so we're losing that cast member and his family. We didn't really meet his wife. We met him. We liked him. But they're no longer with the bigger group. So they go on their way, going in opposite directions. Rick leaves a note for Martin, letting him know that they're going to the CDC, and here's a map. That might come back to bite him. I honestly have no idea. I don't remember what happens with the Martin storyline. Anyway, the RV breaks down a few miles in and like overheats because the hose is bad. And at this point, you get the tall, gangly man who was bit. He's like, you gotta leave me. I can't go on any further. I'm done for. This is my choice. I'm lucid. So it's very hard. But the humans leave this other human that is not long for this life by a tree on the side of the road. They never address how they fix the truck. They must have actually found something at the gas station down the road. So there's that. And so they drive off. And as they're going away from the tree, it cuts. And it makes you think it's the end of the episode. But it cuts to a video diary of a scientist, presumably at the CDC. But he is doing like a video log of how it's going. And Project Wildfire started over, like it's been less than a year since all of this started, according to his timeline. And they show him not only talking about the outbreak and how it happened, but then he goes into the lab and is working with samples that are like flesh-eating samples. So these are like zombie samples. But he accidentally spills his something. I don't know. I'm not a biologist. This isn't working. So he spills something and it like causes contamination. So he's got to run out, and the lab like decontaminates itself and like sets everything on fire. So he's really upset because he's lost the best sample he's had. And so he feels helpless and worthless and decides to get drunk and tells all of this to the camera. And then guess who shows up at the CDC headquarters but our caravan of misfits. And they make their way up to the door and it's all like locked shut. So they're like, let's go back. We can't be here this close to like after dark and this close to dark. So Rick sees the camera move though. So he knows someone's in there and he's shouting. He's like, help us. We have women and children. You got to help us. Let us in. Let us in. I know you're in there. And there's like pandemonium and chaos and everything. And just when they're about to turn around and walk back, because like obviously Rick was wrong. The camera was just moving because of automation. The doors open and a blinding light happens. And that's how the episode ends. Yep, that's it. So, I'm very excited to see what happens next episode. But, series goes on for like 10 seasons, so we know this is not the end. We'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye.